All right, kids. So I'm hiding on the front porch for this one because I'm with the kids all day. So I don't want to be interrupted for at least the intro of this. So more likely it'll happen later on in this video. But today we're making bear fat. So I've got 2 bags of ground up bear fat here. There is a quick video, which I'll put right here. But didn't have a lot of time to get a lot of footage of how I broke this down. So essentially I'll just tell you. Basically, I took all the bear fat. If you watched the bear processing video I did, it cut it up into chunks, put it into bags about this size, froze it in a single layer, and pulled it out of the freezer, cut the frozen chunks up smaller, and ran it through the grinder. It was still frozen enough. I was actually able to grind it twice, which is absolutely preferred. So now, essentially, what grinding it does is it makes it so all of the connective tissue that is in the fat is completely broken up. And now that I've done it twice, it is going to, we'll get probably a good 90% yield out of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to, and the melt point on bear fat is so low. I literally just pulled this out of the freezer and you can already see this section up here is already starting to thaw. So the reason I refroze it is, again, it's so low. I had this in the fridge last night and it was just like super soft, and it would have been a real pain in the butt to get out of the bag. You would have had to push it out like toothpaste. So we tossed it back in the freezer. So now what we're going to have to do, we'll cut the top, open it up, toss it in the pot to get it going. So I'm going to go ahead and move this inside. This is going to be kind of a quicker video. Not a lot of explanation, like obviously explanation, but I'm not going to put you on time lapse to watch lard boil. So I'll pop you back in when different things happen. So we'll see you in a second. All right, so we're going to take these bags, pop them in this pan. We're not going to add any water to the bottom of this just because the melt point, like I said before, is so low that any heat, this will be able to melt very quick. So all that slides right out. Like I said, that's why I froze it beforehand. I don't really need a pot this big, but it's kind of my best option because my other pot is just a little too small for this. We will more than likely transition it into a smaller pot once we get into the canning process of it. All right. So now you got all the bear fat in there. This is about 15 pounds of bear fat. So I'm going to go ahead, shut you off, and we're going to pop over to the stove real quick. All right, so we got the bear fat on the stove. We just got it on low temp. Again, this is not going to take very long. All of this is broken down to a point. I mean, like I said, I can just do this, and you can already see it's starting to melt down a little bit. So we're just going to let this go for the rest of the day, and I'll go ahead and pop back. We'll give an update in a little bit, so we'll see you in a second. All right, so we're coming up on about half hour, 40 minutes. Again, I just have this on very low. We don't need to boil this. Once everything starts to melt, I might turn it up a little bit to help reduce everything, but we are well on our way. So I will pop back in when this is melted down a little bit more just to show you guys. All right, so this has been going for about 2 hours now. So everything's melted down. As you can see, there are these chunks in here. I could render this down a little bit longer and try and get some more out of it. What I'm going to do for clarity reasons is I'm going to go ahead and drain all the chunks and everything out. So I'm going to go ahead, change camera angles, and we're going to show you that. All right, so we have 2 different sets of colanders over a bigger pot here, and we're just going to pull out all of the extra stuff. There we go. Like I said, if we wanted to, we could go ahead and continue to render all this down, but I like super, super clear lard. So if we continue to boil that down, there's a chance it's going to get cloudy. So if you look at that, everything's super clear. So we're just going to go ahead, pop this back over, and we're going to let that simmer for probably another hour or two. So once we get to the canning process, I will get back to you guys. All right, so we got the lard off the stove. As you can see, it's nice and clearing up a little bit. So when we're putting it in the jars, that's just a canning funnel. I've got some cheesecloth on there, and we're just going to get everything else out of it. Try not to make too much of a mess. So we're going to put some of these smaller ones and some of these bigger ones as well. So we're just going to get going with this. I'll probably just time lapse through this. All right, so we got all these guys in the pressure canner. Once it gets up to pressure, we're going to let it go for about 10 minutes, 10, 15, and the jars will be sealed. So we'll see you guys in a second. All right, so these are done. And we'll go ahead and pull these out. These barbecue pit gloves are freaking awesome for doing this. And that's what we look like. Nice and clear. So we're going to go ahead and pull these out, and we will do the next batch and whatever. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll be cleaning my service pistol that I use for all the dispatching. And I'm just going to show you guys how I put this on. And yeah, we'll just kind of go from there. So we'll go ahead and see you guys in a second.